Hello and welcome to Letterbox Book Club. My name is Claire and I'm joined by my friend Mackenzie, and today we're going to be talking about A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Enjoy. Alrighty, so we kick things off. Feyre is back in the spring court with Tamlin, our boy, and things are looking pretty good, wouldn't you say, Kenzie? Like, they're engaged now, having a wedding to prepare.
In terms of immediate reaction, it seems to be going quite well, apart from, the PTSD.
Yeah, a lot of nightmares, and even Tamlin's kind of suffering a little bit, but he's kind of not really, paying much attention to that, unfortunately, which is pretty rude considering you're about to be engaged to this chick. But yeah, so we are introduced to another character, who is very prominent early on, Ganthy. And yeah, she's pretty much, bustling about, helping with the wedding preparations.
She's one of the high priestesses.
And that's cool that we get a little bit more, like, world building early on. Because I always thought it was, like, up to this point, I get confused about what the actual, like, social hierarchy is. Because, yeah, you got your high lords, and you got your priestesses, and we've got the other peoples that are coming towards the end of the book, and it's like, ugh, so much.
Yeah, I was also so confused as well, about all the other courts, but again, like, it's a slow build into what they look like and how they function, and we definitely get an eye into some more during this book.
So Feyre, suffering her bit of PTSD, Tamlin is kind of keeping her, like, within the house and the manor. Like, he's trying to kind of keep her safe, kind of not allowing her to be in meetings or anything. It's weird. I find this interesting because in the first book, she was human who couldn't take on anybody, but she was, welcome to do whatever she pleased in the court. But now that she's, like, High Fae, she is capable of withstanding her own if she put her mind to it. But, she's
I think Tamlin is just so scared as well because it's not confirmed, but they think that she has the other High Lord's powers. So he's just like, I don't want them to come and kill you, so he's being protective. I'm just playing the devil's advocate.
Yeah, I get that, but still, it's like, if she really put her mind to it, she could have held her own. But it was just weird, because in a human, she was most vulnerable as a human, because, all the fairies and lesser fairies or evil entities could have whisked her away or done more harm, but now that she's a High Fae, like, I feel like she could stand her own. But yeah, he keeps her kind of locked up, and we see a lot of her PTSD, through her nightmares and stuff, and she doesn't really want to paint anymore, which is quite sad, because we stand one artist. And like she's begging, like, Lucien throughout the entire time to kind of talk to Tamlin. Like, she's not even allowed to go for a ride, or he doesn't really let her go for a ride.
Lucien again has these, like, empty promises, just like under the mountain when she was dying, and he's like, I would have come to help you, and she's like, dude, I was gonna die. And like now he's like, I'll talk to him, Feyre, like, I'll try to talk to him. It's like, it's not about talking to him, you gotta whip that boy into action.
Exactly. Actions speak louder than words, and Lucien is iffy. He's definitely more of an ally towards Tamlin than obviously Feyre.
Lucien just has toxic loyalty.
yeah, very bad. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, toxic loyalty. I love it. And so wedding day approaches. We love that. We love a wedding, a spring court wedding. What could possibly go wrong?
I love a spring wedding.
Exactly. What could possibly go wrong?
So Feyre's literally walking down the aisle and decides, she doesn't decide, but she knows, she's like, that she can't marry him, at least not yet. Like, she needs to settle down, get her PTSD in order, like, figure things out, what she wants to do, and she's just screaming mentally for someone to help her, and she looks at Lucien, she's like, Lucien, help me, like, just in her mind. But Lucien's just like, I don't know what to do, and she just stops halfway down the aisle, pretty much. Tamlin steps towards her, and then who shows up suddenly but our main bat boy, Rhysand.
Yes, in the midst of her, like, it's pretty much a very bad panic attack / anxiety / PTSD, everything induced into one stressful moment, and yeah, she is just wanting someone to come save her. And yeah, our boy Rhys comes to save the day in the name of the bargain in book 1. So, which means she has to be whisked off to the night court for a week, and Tamlin can do nothing about it.
Even though at this point it has been 3 months since Under the Mountain, and he hasn't called in his bargain.
Yeah, so he's really given her some space to kind of settle down, which is quite nice if you think about it, very considerate.
We respect.
He whisks her way to the Night Court, and this is where we get introduced to the Night Court life. You know, we spent all of book 1 in Spring Court. Now we get to have a little glimpse of what the Night Court's all about. Feyre is in the Night Court. She really does not want anything to do with this bargain because she does not like Rhys at this point.
She is surprised because she was expecting a court like under the mountain, but it's nothing like that. She's in a townhouse.
Yeah, she though, yeah, very different to what she expected. And throughout this first week in the Night Court specifically, she kind of figures out some power stuff. Rhys is also trying to teach her to like read and write throughout this entire time because he keeps holding the second task against her the entire time.
Very obnoxiously, he is teaching her to read and write. By writing phrases such as like, Rhysand
is the best type thing, you know?
Yeah. Rhysand is the most handsome High Lord.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, obviously Feyre is very apprehensive to do anything about it, but she kind of... What's she to do for a week?
And except sit and brood and learn.
Yeah, for sure. And we're introduced to Morrigan, which is Rhysand's cousin. She's pretty cool. I like Morrigan. She had a pretty nice introduction.
She's kind of introduced quickly, and then Rhysand just says, you know, she's here if you want to hang out. And Feyre most certainly does not want to hang out at this point.
He has somewhat of a friendly face that's a stranger still.
Yeah.
But Mor really wants to get to know Feyre, which is quite nice. You know, to have that sort of, like, nice attention. Whereas, like, in the first book, you know, Lucian and Alice, they were all like, ugh, why is this human here, you know? Whereas Mor is like, all right, let's hang out sometime. Which is a very good...
Let's be besties.
Yeah, exactly, which is a good little contrast. I know they don't meet in this first week, but pretty much throughout the book, we meet Night Court crew, which I like to dub them as. We meet Cassian, Azriel, and Amren, Rhys's main inner circle.
Yep.
And yeah, Cassian and Azriel are what we find later is I say Illyrian.
Illyrian, yep.
Illyrian warriors, who fight, you know, for the Night Court or at Rhys's call.
Disposal.
And Amren is described as a creature that's actually not from Prythian.
But she's old as heck.
She's an old woman, old lady, like 15,000 years, I think, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
She's not of this world, from a different kind of like other world dimension type thing, which I thought was very interesting for this type of fantasy type of series. I thought
the Night Court crew were not under the mountain for 50 years.
No, Rhys, was kind of like the only one. He was like that representative. At this first week, we learn that the temple of, I pronounce it like Cesare, because like I feel like it's like an Italian type thing, or ancient Roman.
Cesare.
Temple Cesare, Temple Cesare, whatever. We learned that's been kind of ransacked unknowingly. We don't know why.
I think this might have been in like the second time she goes, but that's okay.
Yep. Oh no, I forgot a very important thing.
Tithe. So in the Spring Court, Tamlin calls a tithe, which is where all the citizens of the Spring Court have to come forward and based on what they earn, is it? They have to pay a tax.
Pretty much tax season.
Yeah, it's tax season. They have to come pay tax. Anyway, and so a water wraith comes and she explains to Tamlin that they don't have any money. Like, her and her sisters don't have any money. They can't pay. And Tamlin so graciously says that they have 3 days to pay. Otherwise, goodbye, I guess. And so the water wraith leaves and Feyre runs after her and gives her some jewellery to pay the tithe. And the water wraith just says pretty much like, thank you, you've saved us, and that like, we won't forget this.
This tithe, it annoyed me because it really kind of showed Tamlin a bit of who Tamlin is as like a High Lord. Because, you know, he was always described in the first book as very powerful, in terms of ability, very powerful. And so you wonder what his kind of diplomatic persona is. And it really annoyed me because, one, we know that he was kind of against the human slavery, but yet he keeps this kind of obnoxious tax season. It just didn't really sit right with me. I'm like, what are you doing, boy?
Powerful overlord stuff.
But it was very nice of Feyre to help the water race, because she knew what it was like to kind of be poor and go hungry for that period of time.
And go hungry, yeah.
Very generous. And it's good that the wraiths acknowledged it and allowed it. They were very like hesitant to accept it. Yeah, and I think Tamlin gave them like 3 days to kind of acquire
3 days, yeah.
Which I feel like is not a long time, because like if I can't pay it now, I'm certainly as hell not gonna be able to pay it in 3 days. What are you talking about?
In 3 days.
Yeah, and it was annoying how like all those riches kind of just went to Tamlin essentially. Like that pays for, his food, his servants, like
especially when they're all trying to rebuild the Spring Court.
Yeah. After it was terrorized by Amarantha and all that. Yeah. You'd think he'd be a bit more compassionate.
Why not help them rebuild? Back to the Night Court. It's pretty much just mundane this week, learning to read and write. Rhys leaves her alone.
She starts kind of tapping into some of her powers, I think, while she's over there in the first week. At least momentarily. Like, it was kind of mind shielding, which I found it sometimes pretty difficult to kind of understand when I was reading. It must be so hard to describe magic in a book, because, like, you can only describe it so well, and, like, the imagination just has...
I'm also, this is sort of relevant. You know how Rhys and Feyre like mind talk to each other, through their mental shields or whatever. So I'm reading another book at the moment, and they mind talk as well, but it's not exclusively ever named. It just has it in like italics, and then at one point, like it's been like someone notices them talking to each other through their minds, and I was like, oh, why couldn't you have just said that? Like,
right, yeah. Like, make it established that, like, it's not just a two-person connection,
Yeah, and it's not just, like, talking, like idly out in the world.
Their telepathy phone call is just being hacked, being bugged.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, no.
And then I also thought as well that Feyre and Rhysand could only do that because of the bargain.
Which comes to the end of the first week, I believe, of the bargain, so...
End of the first week, yes.
Feyre is returned back to Spring Court unharmed. Tamlin's...
Unharmed in one piece.
Yeah, Tamlin's pissed off because, his bride just got whisked away. Like, who would want that at their wedding?
Yes. So Feyre just wants to go and rest and change or whatever, but Tamlin insists that she is debriefed right away, like the war general he is.
They want to try, him and Lucien want her to kind of be like the eyes and ears of the Night Court. Like, they want to use this bargain to their advantage.
Because they assume that Rhysand is still the big bad.
Just kind of like a spy network thing. Considering, the little bit of behaviour Tamlin's shown, like, you wouldn't want to do it anyway,
Yeah.
But I believe they kind of had like, not a bargain, but kind of like a little deal, like, alright, I'll tell you, I'll keep you in the loop if you do this for me, type of thing. She just wants to sort herself out, sort her mind out. She's been through some pretty traumatic stuff, and like, it just doesn't heal in 3 months,
Exactly.
Now having all this extra stuff offloaded onto her.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes back to the Night Court again for another week?
Yeah, see, this is why I thought the tithe happens now.
Okay.
After she comes back.
Okay.
Because that fills in that space between, because otherwise nothing happens and then she just goes back.
Back in the Spring Court, Tamlin and Lucien have like a mission, and Tamlin again keeps Feyre out of the loop, and she's very frustrated and stressed out because of the whole "I'll spy on Rhys for you if you kind of let me in, let me help, be productive." He doesn't do that, and Feyre at this point is like begging him, like, please just let her.
She's on her knees, literally begging.
Yeah, to kind of let her at least have some sort of freedom within at least the manor or the Spring Court. But no, Tamlin magically locks the entire manor, and so she's essentially just trapped in there.
To everyone, like, no, so it's locked for Feyre, but anyone else can walk in and out. So Feyre explodes into darkness.
This is another anxiety, frustrating, PTSD-ridden moment again, like a full-on panic breakdown, whatever you want to describe it. Darkness envelops.
She's freaking out, and she feels someone pick her up and like cradle her against their chest, and Alice just says, just take her.
Find out that it was the lovely Moor that kind of rescued her from her domain. And
we also find out that because Tamlin has wards up around the Spring Court, you can't like winnow in. So Rhys had to winnow more in, and then she had to walk in. So they fought to get Feyre out.
Or like she had to knock out the guards humanely, or like in a way that doesn't provoke war solely with the Spring Court. It was weird. It's weird, those political type of barriers, and Maas saves her, and she's back
in the Night Court.
Pretty sure she got like left alone for a little bit as well, you know, to kind of gather her thoughts.
Yeah. And then I believe this is where Rhys asks her if she'll work for him, or like she says like, I'm gonna work for you.
Yeah, it turns into like another thing, like another spy, like Rhys.
Well, yeah, this is where they have the family dinner.
A little bit of like fluff happens, and like Rhys takes her to Mackenzie's favorite place in the entire book series.
Velaris!
That was Velaris, the city of starlight.
The city of starlight, protected from all harm. Always. Well, not always, but...
But yeah, City of Starlight. When we learn that Rhys managed to like use a lot of magic to be able to shield this kind of little pocket away from Amarantha's reign, this is the city of Velaris is still a part of the Night Court. But yeah, it was just kind of hidden from view. And that's where Rhys, we learn that Rhys kept a lot of his citizens and his inner circle. So they were essentially kind of trapped there as well. They couldn't go like in and out or anything.
Yes. I'm not sure of the actual semantics of that, but...
Rhys takes her to the House of Wind as well, which is his kind of private residence? Or was it another...
I think it's like a diplomatic...
Townhouse and House of Wind. House of Wind is like
and
the
House of Wind.
Like kind of quote-unquote family home.
Yeah, I think that's like the diplomatic, like an embassy.
Right, yep.
So when like other like courts would come to visit, like that's where they would be for all their meetings and stuff, because yeah, the townhouse is his private residence.
Yep, of course. And yeah, this is where we officially meet Cassian, Azriel, and Amren. And the Night Court crew. We love them. We love their like dancing with each other. And when we learn of their backstories, everyone has such a tragic backstory. Like, my god.
I know.
Even like kind of Tamlin and Lucien and Alice, like everybody's just so sad. This is Rhys's inner circle. Maul was the second.
Maul's second in command,
followed by Cassian? Amren, then like Cassian, Azriel. You can.
Yeah, because because Azriel is like the spy master or whatever. Azriel, Shadow Master, and then Cassian is his general.
Yeah, yes, that's right. All these more world building, more titles, more interesting type of subclasses. Initially, what do you think of Amren, Cassian, and Azriel?
I couldn't gauge Azriel because I just like imagine him as the silent, brooding type.
Yeah.
Amren just gave me psycho vibes, like ancient, like powerful vibes.
She is also described as like you don't want her after you for any type of reason.
Yeah.
Like Rhys will sick her on you if you put a toe out of line.
Loved more, just sarcastic queen. Cassian. Yeah, again, I think like the first time I read, I was just like, oh, they're just like, oh, more characters. Like, and I didn't really think twice about it. But yeah, now that I've read a few times.
Yeah, you kind of appreciate them a little bit more.
Yeah, and especially read Silver Flames.
Yeah, I'm getting that. Again, we learn more temples throughout Prythian are being ransacked and priestesses are being killed. And so Rhys decides to try and seek some answers because he has none. And Feyre wants to go with him, and he says, yes, why not come along? Do everything that Tamlin didn't do.
And yeah, Rhysand says like, because I think at first he says like pretty much, oh, I prefer you like not be involved, but not in like a mean way. I think it's in like a you need to recover way.
Like, yeah, Night Court, because she's not like a part of the Night Court. Like, she's intended to be a part of Spring Court. Like, Night Court business is Rhys's business, but like.
Yeah, and it will look bad if she just shows up with Night Court stuff.
Exactly.
But then he explains that she will always have a choice if she wants to go on things or not.
Yep. And it would just seem weird as well, just having, like, Tamlin's intended, like, love kind of prancing about with other people.
Yeah.
Especially, like, rumours and talk would have already been spread about her being whisked away.
Yes, stolen.
So Rhys takes Feyre to a pretty wicked place in the Night Court called the Prison. And he meets, like, a very powerful, ancient as well, entity called the Bone Carver.
Who has answers for everything.
Exactly. Think of like the cereal. It's like the night court cereal, if you will, for the most part.
But pretty sure you have to answer specific questions.
Yes, and it's more of a thought for a thought type of thing, like, you know, it's a two-way street. But and I think given his name is Bone Carver, like you have to gift him with some type of bones or
bone.
And beforehand, Amren gives Feyre like an amulet to borrow that doesn't allow her to be trapped in the prison, which I never really understood kind of why, like, as in, like, mentally stuck or, like, physically stuck? Much control?
Because remember they tried to go once.
Oh, yeah.
And then Feyre couldn't do it because it reminded her of Under the Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
But then Feyre gives the amulet back to Amren, and Amren's like, oh, like, thanks. And Feyre's like, what do you mean? Like, you said I couldn't get out without it. And she's like, it's just... And Amren said that, oh, Rhys gave it to me. It's just a trinket. Like, you just needed something to believe.
Yeah, it's like a placebo confidence booster.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go to the Bone Carver. The Bone Carver gives Rhys some answers. What we learn, that we didn't mention this character's name in the first book, I think just out of completely forgotten to do so. But there's a...
Yeah, it's just also very confusing.
Yeah.
Like, story.
Exactly. It's a huge world, really complicated. People come and go.
Yeah, if you read the books, you'll know.
Yeah, we learn that Durian, who killed Amarantha's sister, which is pretty much why Amarantha went on her rampage in the first book to begin with, that he has been reborn by a magical artifact called the Cauldron, which we also learn that the King of Highburn is collecting the magical pieces for.
Yeah, because there's 3 pieces, and they were hidden in the temples, and then that's why the temples have been ransacked.
And the priestess is killed, yes.
And
we learned that the final type of object to hinder this cauldron is this thing called the Book of Breathings,
which is also in pieces.
Which is they really love, you know, breaking things and scattering them across. Yes, it's in 2 pieces. We learn that the mortal queens of the human realm have a half, and we learn that the Summer Court has the other half. So we're having an introduction to like another aspect of Prythian with the Summer Court. So like the majority of the middle part of the book is just trying to acquire, you know, the Book of Breathings. They begin writing to the Mortal Queens and kind of trying to, you know, get a meeting in with them in order to try and persuade them to hand over their half of the Book of Breathings. So Feyre returns home, and we find Nestor and Elaine kind of chilling about, and they want them to help to kind of be like the human emissaries to the Mortal Queens. Because now that Feyre is High Fae, the humans kind of hate her inherently.
Yes. And Nestor is Nestor and is not that thrilled about it, of course.
No, she just wants to live her life. Elaine's just Elaine. We learn that Elaine is engaged.
Engaged to the son of a lord who hates Fae.
Yes, so this makes this whole
perfect
journey a little bit more ambitious.
They just basically ask Nestor and Elaine to send a letter off to the queens that just explain what's going on and that they want to meet.
Because the threat of Highburn invading Prythian and the Mortal Lands in particular is on the rise and is a very serious, threatening matter. Yes.
So then like the Night Court crew go back to the Night Court and figure out their next moves, which are to go to the Summer Court.
Yeah, we get to suss out the Summer Court. How fun is this going to be? Actually, during one of the early weeks in the Night Court, Feyre is sent by Rhys to retrieve an artifact that's hidden from the Weaver, which is another powerful ancient entity, just to kind of test Feyre's powers into finding objects.
They wanted, the Cauldron made.
Yes.
Because she is made herself and light calls to light.
Yes, and so Rhys is trying to test her to kind of see if she can locate these artifacts. And she succeeds, much to the Weaver's frustration, and she pretty much almost destroyed the place.
Yeah, she burnt it.
She did quite the renovation on it.
Yes.
But we later learn that what Rhys sent her to find didn't actually matter. But either way, a test is a test.
It was but a trinket.
So they go to Summer Court. We meet Lord Tarquin. How I pronounce it, Tarquin. He's kind of surprised by the visit. You know, it's kind of.
And he's new. He's young to it. He doesn't really know what to think or expect of the meeting. And he's cautious as well because of the fact that Feyre is still the stolen bride.
Yeah, basically, yeah, Night Court get like an introduction to the Summer Court by Tarquin themselves. Feyre's mission is to kind of get a little bit close to Tarquin to try and like use
Just see if he'll hand it over.
Yeah, exactly. And what I've learned is that like every High Lord and everything, just like they all want to like flirt with her and everything. Everything is very like sensual. Every kind of
Yes. Also at this point as well, like Feyre and Rhysand's relationship is kind of like fun and flirty, like we don't really know which way it's gonna go. But then Feyre is flirting with Tarquin and she smiles at him, and then Rhysand just leaves pretty much with the princess. And then the next morning as well, after that night that Rhysand and the princess allegedly spent the night together, Feyre doesn't want to go to breakfast, she doesn't want to see him, so it's a bit hard to like kind of gauge what's happening.
Yeah, it's like when two people kind of seemingly like each other but don't want to acknowledge it, so then they try and go off with other people, but like even that in itself annoys each other.
Yeah, and when everyone sort of knows but they know. And then Feyre also says to Tarquin that like it would be easy to love him.
He's just been so gracious, been so nice.
Yeah, so they go, I don't know, like on a tour of Adriata, which is the Summer Court city, and Feyre like notices an old like rundown temple thing, and that's where the book is. Yeah, Amren go on this sort of like night adventure. Rhysand knocks out the guards, and he said that he shouldn't have, I don't think he kills them, but he says he should have like tried to knock them out like a bit more covertly.
Yeah.
Covertly, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Feyre grabs the book out of the temple, and it kind of traps them, like the door shut, it starts rising with water. We think they're gonna die. Holy crap.
Claustrophobic, panic, PTSD, again, everything into one.
Everything, yeah. And then some water wraiths save them, and then they pretty much just say, like, their debt is now even, like, their debt is paid. She saved them by giving their sister the jewelry, and they saved her.
This moment, I was like, because I was reading this section and I was like, how are they going to get out of this one? You know, I didn't even think about
I thought they were going to die.
I thought, like, the water race was kind of like the first mercenary in the first book, like, well, this is a good deed, a nice thing happened, we won't see it again.
Yeah, I thought it was just, like, to reinforce, like, what a nice person Feyre is and stuff.
Yeah, but nah, like, I was genuinely, like, gobsmacked. My mouth was open. I was like, whoa, that was so cool.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, the water race. I remember I messaged you, the water race are the real MVPs.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah, Amren and Feyre, ultimately steals the book. And then they go back to the Night Court, like, ASAP.
Yeah, they run. And then they receive 3 blood rubies with Rhysand, Amren, and Feyre's name on them, which pretty much means you come in the Summer Court, you die. Yeah,
it's pretty much like a bounty on them. Which is a cool concept, a blood ruby. Yeah. Amren likes to kind of, like, play around with hers, like, because she likes jewels and stuff, and, like, it's just...
Yeah.
It would be very frustrating to know that, like, you don't really hold, like, she just doesn't really care about it. Like, she's not threatened by it at all.
Yeah.
But yes, and we learn that the first half of the book, Amren, is in Amren's language, and she can kind of try her best to decode it and, like, study it and see what's up.
Yeah. I'm just trying to work out the timeline. So first they go back, they hear from the queens, and then they go back, they travel with them, and they tell them what's going to happen. Like Highburn wants to break the wall, and they say they need the book, and the queens don't want to give them the book, but then Morrigan shares with them what will happen if Highburn breaks a rule and invades. And they agree to think about handing the book over, but they need to see proof that Rhysand is not the monster that he's rumoured to be. And as proof of this, Rhysand decides to show them Valaris, but he will not let them in, but they need the orb to show them.
So this is where they go to the Court of Nightmares.
Yeah.
Which is...
They go... And then they come back from the Court of Nightmares. And then this is where Rhys is flying and he's attacked by ash arrows from the ground.
Mm-hmm. But this is where he finds out he's being tracked by using his magic.
Yeah. And also Feyre learns that Tamlin's family is the one that killed Rhysand's mother and sister.
Very tragic. So now we know why they're so uneasy with each other and very aggressive towards each other.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I figured it out. So then they go to an Illyrian war camp. And like this is where they're finding everything. And so Feyre is out in the like forest around it training. And Lucien finds her and some others, and then Lucian tries to convince her to come back to Tamlin, and she refuses, and she sort of like shape shifts in front of them and shows that she has wings, even though she doesn't, but it's just to scare them off. And then Rhys and Feyre decide to stay away for the night, and then this is where, like, you know, the classic like 2 people, 1 bed scenario, and then Feyre kind of just like gives in and is like, oh, like, I need this, like, I just need a bit of fun, like, we'll just like use each other for fun or whatever, and they get a bit saucy. And then the next day, they're flying back, and Rhys is attacked again with ash arrows, and he can't fly, and he's really injured, and he's dying pretty much.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And Rhys is captured, and they put like the iron things on him. But anyway, Feyre saves the day.
She saves the day because in a moment of panic, she finds our friendly neighborhood Cyril.
Yes. She's like, I need the info to save Rhys.
She doesn't know how. She's lost all hope in trying to save him because ash arrows, it really weakens the like High Fae, but like he is on the brink. And so yeah, she captures the Cyril again, which is impressive. You know, 2 from 2. And
2 for 2.
yeah, and the Cyril pretty much tells Feyre how to heal him, giving him a bit of her blood.
Yes.
Which is pretty gross.
The Cyril says to save your mate. And this is where my mind was like, yes! Like, of course they are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the whole, like, their relationship has set up to being like that love triangle, like Tamlin, Rhys, Feyre. You know what destroys ships? Canon. It is canon that Rhys and Feyre are mates. And so she's kind of like bewildered by that. She's like, what? But she goes back to Rhys, saves him.
But she asks the Cyril if Rhys knew, and the Cyril reveals that yes, Rhys did know that they were mates.
So she's kind of a little bit peeved that, you know, again, she's kind of like the last to know. This is kind of the theme of the book, you know, being the last to know everything.
Yeah. So she heals him, just like enough to get him back to the war camp, and she pretty much just drags him back and then leaves him in the mud and tells Moore to just take her far away because she's pissed. Moore takes her to a cabin in the woods, if you will, but it's a nice cabin in the woods, and Moore just reveals that like this is just another cabin that's magic-fied, like no one can get in pretty much, and the cabin will provide whatever you want. And then so Feyre's there for a week, and she finally decides to paint again, and she paints the whole cabin. She paints just like really weird the way it's described, but she paints like the eyes of Amren and Cassian and Asriel and Moore and Rhys, and she just paints and paints and paints. And Moore comes up to visit her at one point and like just says, you know, like everyth's okay, but you gotta like let Rhys in, pretty much, whatever. And then she leaves again, and then Feyre thinks it's Moore coming back. There's banging on the door, but she opens the door and it's Rhys.
They pretty much just reconcile.
They reconcile, so Feyre heats him up some soup. Good soup.
Good soup.
And then they consummate their mating bond.
Yes. And he tells her his whole story about how he knew, when he knew. It really does tie back to the first book. Just that, the whole revelation, it was just like, whoa, it all makes sense. You just gotta have a bit of patience.
Yeah, and when like the first time he saw her at like the fire night and he said like, there you are, I've been looking for you.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just a throwaway line to get the bad Fae of Feyre.
It wasn't like a creepy type of thing. It was
and he'd been getting visions of like the paintings that she was drawing on the like drawers at her house when she was human.
Known for a very long time. And the fact, it kind of killed him that he waited that 3 months, you know, before even claiming the first week of the bargain. Like, he really gave her time and the chance to kind of choose, because we learn eventually that, like, you can reject, like, a mating bond, and he's just giving her all the choice in the world to kind of figure herself out prior to this moment. Like, because it's easy. Unlike someone else that we know who seems to be entitled to their mate when we find that out.
Yes. And then they go back to the night court, and everyone's pretty much happy because everyone knew.
yeah. Everyone was just trying not to tell her.
Yeah.
Or at least had a feeling.
Yeah. So then it comes time. Amren has figured out the book.
I think they finally hear back from the Queen, and they show them Valeris. Because they have the orb now.
Oh, yeah.
And the queens still refuse to give them the book. So
they leave. The queens leave, but one queen has snuck the book away and left it for them.
Yes. And Cassian seems to kind of suddenly, throughout this entire process, kind of wants to protect Feyre's, like, sisters. So he vows to protect them. So Amren finally decodes the book, but there's an attack on Valaris from Highburn. Yeah, I hated that. I hated that.
Yeah,
Like, no.
which ultimately means that the queens have sold them out. But it's very quick and Feyre. It's just a demonstration. I think just a fast way to demonstrate the wrath of Feyre's power. She holds off many creatures and she kills the Atoll.
Yeah, and a show of strength for like the inner circle as well, because everyone kind of went in to save them.
Yeah. So they decide now is the time to act. They need to sneak into Highburn and nullify the cauldron. So Feyre has to like touch it and like speak a language or whatever. But things go wrong.
Of course.
Which of course they do.
No one can ever have a perfect plan.
Yeah, and the group is captured by big reveal Jurian, who has been remade.
The carver say that, but yes, it was weird to know that Jurian was the one to actually capture them.
Because Jurian is human.
This is where we meet the King of Highburn for the first time.
So the king holds like their magic and they can't do anything, and he threatens to kill Azriel. Like Azriel's wings, I think, are shredded apart.
Cassian's. He used Azriel as kind of like the kind of stress ball. Like, oh, if you hurt me, he's the pin.
Oh Azriel's yeah, no, I remember what happens.
If they have one toe out of line, Azriel is done for. Which, how dare they hurt our boy? You know, he just wants to do his work and be a good guy.
So they're kind of like brought into another room. And Lucian's there, Tamlin's there, and Feyre's sisters have been captured as well. So Tamlin has sold them out.
Sold them out to the King of Highburn. He has pledged kind of his allegiance to them in order for the Spring Court safety and also to bring Feyre back. The Mortal Queens, and we learn that Ianthe is the one who threw Feyre's sisters under the bus and to kind of use them as collateral. So
the queens ultimately sold them out because the queens want to become immortal. And the king basically says, okay, like you can go into the cauldron and that will make you immortal. They're hesitant. So instead he throws in Feyre's sisters.
Yeah, that was rough. Like, I was not expecting any of that to happen. Like, when I first heard of her sisters introduced in the first book, I thought, oh, they're going to be human forever, you know? Like, they're going to have that human involvement. But yeah, that took a turn. Took a
big turn. Like, I was like, whoa, the whole time, edge of my seat, like, what is happening here? So, Elaine is thrown in first?
Yes.
Yeah, Elaine's thrown in first, comes out. Lucian announces that Elaine is his mate, which is great timing. Nesta is thrown in, but Nesta like points at the king, like death stare, pretty much like says like, I'll get you back for this, and is thrown in. And
down under she goes.
So then at this point, Tamlin like asks the king to break the bond between Feyre and Rhysand.
That was another part of their kind of deal.
Yeah, their deal. Get Feyre back. And Feyre's like speaking to Rhysand through her mind, like being like, it's okay, like just get my sisters out. But Rhys isn't responding, so we don't know what's going on. So basically, the king breaks their bond, and then Feyre, we learn, but is pretending, and she comes out and is all like, oh my gosh, like pretty much just pretends Rhysand like stole her
had her like under a spell type of thing. Like she puts on a little performance explosion type thing. Bright light, and then she poses, I've been under a spell, Tamlin, you've saved me, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, and they pull off like her right glove or whatever, and there's no tattoo anymore. So Tamlin believes that this is over.
The bond is broken.
The bond is broken, and then they go back to the Spring Court, but then Rhysand reveals that if they had taken off her other glove, they would have, on her other arm, they would have found a matching tattoo, because the night before they went to a priest.
Yeah, we learned that was kind of like off-screen moment. We learned that that the mating bond was verified by a priestess, and they were essentially abducted as like the High Lady.
Yeah. So now she is a spy
again, which brings us back to the beginning of the book where she was asked to be a spy to begin with.
Yes.
This is an intense book. So much happened. So much world building. So much to talk about.
So this is still, I think, my favourite book of the whole series at the moment, because there's still another book coming. I just think, it's done so well. Like there's so much that happens, so much world building, and then all like the revelations of what's happening. It's just brilliant writing.
followed the similar structure as I like to describe it as the first book. Like, you have your first little bit of like conflict, and then you have your main part of the book was all fluff and adventuring, and then you get your last 100 pages full of action and twists and turns.
And when I was reading about like the bond being broken, I believed it. I was like, what the hell? Like she went through all that just to get a mate for it to be ripped away.
Yeah, I suppose, but how else are you going to string us along?
Yeah.
But yeah, and it leaves us, you know, leaves us options for the third book, which is pretty much, because the cauldron hasn't been destroyed, like it.
And Highburn's still at large now.
Yeah, she failed to kind of immobilize it, and Highburn is, after Prithian, Tamlin is happy because he got Feyre back. Lucien doesn't buy it for a second. He's suspicious.
Yeah. Is it at like the end of this where they're going back to the spring court and like Lucien looks at her funny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lucien found his mate in Elaine, which is kind of weird how she had to be kind of High Fae in order for that to click. Or was it really the first time he saw her?
The first time he saw her, I think.
Okay, so if she, say, hypothetically, if she never went into the cauldron and he saw her, would they still be mates?
Maybe, but I think it would be easier to reject it if she was human.
As a human, she'd die, like, a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Just thinking about that now, that's pretty interesting. I really like the book overall. I just love, like, you know, we you root for the spring court in the first book, and then Sarah J. Maas just flips it on its head. It's like, nah,
everything's taken away, I know.
You're gonna love the Night Court instead. We're gonna love the Bat Boys. We're gonna love more. You're gonna love Amryn. Although you'd
I just remember
like Amryn.
I just remember on Book Talk, like, it was all about like Rhysand and stuff, and then I was reading the first book and I was like, who is this guy? Like, when is he coming into it? And then he came into it. I'm like, well, I hate you. Like, you're an obnoxious prick. And then this book, and I was like, whoa, okay.
Book Talk has a real hold on us right now. Everything.
Yes.
Saying so many funny things. But that was us having a chit chat about Akamath. I love the acronym. I just love the acronyms as well, except for Flame
and Frost and Star. Oh, Akafas. It's okay. Yeah, Silver Flames. Why couldn't it have been Silver and Flames?
yeah. Is it a warning sign to come? It's not a cool acronym? Who knows?
I'm scared.
But I'm sure we've missed a few things, but like, there's just so much to talk about. Like, you can't have every single like detail.
I know. I've seen some people do podcasts of like chapter 1 and chapter 2, and I was like, that's too much content.
That's too analytical. We're just like, this moment was cool. This moment we realized this happened. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening. Catch us next time on when we have a chit chat about Aka War, a court of war and ruin.